Hi, I'm Desiree Hadley,
And I'm Andrea Mason with Newark People's Assembly.
and this is Hold the Line with Mayor Ras J. Baraka. Now, today, Mayor, we're going to be discussing three subjects. The first being the snow removal process here in Newark for last week's snowstorm, the lead water crisis, and the shooting of the 2-year-old here in Newark. So, my first question, we're going to talk about the snow. We received between about over 16 inches between Sunday and Tuesday.
Right.
Due to this storm, City Hall was closed. A number of businesses in the city were also closed. Although there were predictions on the news of the snowstorm the week leading up to the storm,
Yeah.
it appeared as if, to some, it appeared as if DPW was not prepared for the
Right.
snowstorm. And so, as the mayor, as the leader of the city, what do you say to those residents who, from the outside looking in, believe Newark's, DPW, did a horrible job at clearing the snow during that storm?
Well, I don't think they did a horrible job. I believe that there were some things that they could have done better. This was a record snowfall, right? So we haven't had over a foot of snow in God knows how long. A foot of snow is hard to move, especially on small blocks. They just can't come with a plow and get rid of snow when it's continuously snowing. This is why we gave ourselves leeway. We said Wednesday would probably be a reasonable time to have most of the snow up. About 85% of the streets were done on Wednesday morning. Obviously, all of the main streets were done. I think they did a great job in getting the thoroughfares and the throughways done. The hills, the dangerous parts of the city that are classified, they got those done. I think they have problem with the secondary and tertiary streets, smaller roads. And then when we have a conversation, we find out that it's more difficult to get down those side streets. Sometimes the vendors don't go down those streets because the trucks are too big, and they just wave them off. And so we have to do a better job in planning to get those secondary and tertiary streets, especially when there's heavy snow and it turns into a snow removal operation instead of just a snow plowing operation. Then we pack people in, right? And we have to figure that out. We're going to have to tow cars. We didn't want to do that, and we didn't during COVID. But for future purposes, we're going to have to do it because the tow trucks can't get down, cars get stuck. We're going to have to start towing cars if they're not listening to the roadway that says don't park if it's snow covered. We're going to have to do that. And then finally, DPW have to do a better job in communicating with the people that's out in the street, right? There are a lot of trucks and vendors that are out there from different places that are shoveling in different parts of the city that they don't even know. So we have to do a better job in communicating with them exactly what we need, what we want, and what they should be doing while they're out there, because they're getting paid. And sometimes they idle, they sit around, they don't do what they're supposed to do. And on our side, it's our job to manage that, right? To make sure that they're doing it. If we can't do that, then we have to do a better job at that.
Okay.
So, Mayor, as you know, Newark People's Assembly logged quite a few complaints throughout the snowstorm. They were complaints regarding the condition of the streets, the plowing, the lack thereof, and actually some personal requests. Oftentimes, Newark residents compare Newark to other towns that's not quite like ours. And they also feel a sense of entitlement, or they think that they know what our responsibility is as far as cleaning the streets and things of that nature. So what is DPW's actual responsibility during and after snow events?
Well, they're supposed to just make sure the roads are passable. That's what they're supposed to do, make sure roads are passable. They're not, none of the major cities really do huge snow removal operations. So they're not responsible for moving snow from your car. Like to pick snow up and put it into a truck and drive it off. Many cities don't do that, and they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. Newark does it, and people get used to us doing it, so they expect us to do it, right? They expect us to come with the truck, which is more money, and the only reason that we actually do it is when we get behind. When we get behind the snow plow, when the snow is coming, then the plow can't come down the street because it's too impacted, the snow. So it turns into a snow removal operation. Then we have to pick the snow up and carry it off, which makes the snow clearing of the street takes a little longer to do with those trucks because they have to drive the snow away. But the DPW is not responsible for moving the snow off your car. They're not responsible for shoveling snow on sidewalks. They're not responsible for any of that. They're only responsible for making sure the roads are passable. And the only way you can make sure roads are passable is if we stay off of them. right?
One more snow question. So snow is predicted for this upcoming Sunday.
Yeah.
Do you predict things will be similar to the previous storm, or do you think DPW will,
No.
tackle
And
it
see, what's
a little
interesting?
better?
The city has had a half a dozen snowstorms before this foot of snow came, of more. We've had multiple snowstorms in 2019, 2020, and basically they've done it very well. And there was no issues. We didn't have all of these issues that we have now because it wasn't a foot of snow or more, right? And that's what people have to understand. So the snowstorms that are coming up next, I expect to be able to deal with those. You're talking about 3 inches, 6 inches, even 8 inches. We've had that before, and we've been able to handle that without any issue. Well, without multiple issues. We always have issue with tertiary and some secondary streets because we just have to get the proper equipment to get down those blocks because our big plows can't do it.
All right. All right, we can move on to the lead water questions. So my first question is, as many of us know, Newark has reached the 17,000 mark. We are actually over 17, with 17,155 lead service lines have been replaced within the city. The overall goal is to reach up to 18,000. We're almost there. Before my question, once that goal is reached, Newark will be an example of what it looks like for a city to overcome a citywide lead water crisis,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Right. So my question now is, do you expect for naysayers to somehow still find an angle to negatively flip the great news that Newark has accomplished?
You can't stop people from saying negative stuff. I mean, some people just negative, period. So the people who are suing us have said Newark is a model, a national model now. And not just because we replace lead service lines. What people don't know also is that we built an entire corrosion control system to replace the old system that did not work. We had to build that. Invested and built, we built it, and we began putting new kind of corrosion control into the water to coat the pipes. And that has in fact worked. Our levels are below what they're supposed to be based on federal and state guidelines. We passed that test one time, we have to pass it twice. We're coming up on that, and we are really confident that we're going to pass it again. And if we pass it again, then we're out of this completely. We're out of it completely. So the corrosion control works, and most cities around the country only use corrosion control. That's all they depend on to coat the pipes, the lead, because they still have lead pipes, but they coat the pipes. So most cities in the country depend on that corrosion control. Ours stopped working, so we had to build something so that we get a new one, and now it's working. But we didn't want to deal with it at all, so we just removed all of the lead service pipes, the lead service lines, which means that, Newark will probably be one of very few cities in this nation that has removed every lead service line in its city, and I know we'd be the only one in the nation who has done it for free.
Right.
Awesome. So prior to March, the hot topic, prior to the pandemic beginning, the hot topic was the Newark status of the water. And during the pandemic, the conversation shifted, but the water status is still a concern, of course.
Sure.
Can you speak to the strides that Newark has made with its water over the last year, and specifically in layman's terms, because there are people that still are saying there was lead in the water.
Right. And people say that, especially when they want to take a dig, and it's lead in our water. And I would tell them, get it tested. You can get your water tested now for free. You've been got to get it tested. Just get it tested. If you think that, call the water department. Have them. I just got my water tested. Again, last week. Again, my wife was saying, get the water tested. I got it tested again. We're at non-detect. So at the end of the day, go get your water tested. There were all kind of things wrong with the system because Newark hadn't invested in water control or water in its water system in 20 some odd years. There was no real investment. We had to spend money. Over the last couple of years, we spent money to be able to, one, build a new corrosion control system, build different things up at the water treatment plant, to be able to, all of the issues that Newark had, we have passed all of those things. Haliacidic acids, we passed. Lead in the water, we passed. All of those things are changing because we've invested in the water treatment system. That's what's happening now. and we're changing lead service lines. We're pulling all of that out of the thing. So if you're really interested in what's going on with the water, you should come to be a part of the town hall meetings that we're about to have around water. We're going to have a 2 or 3, I believe, and then we're going to have a State of the Water again kind of conversation. So listen to that, be a part of that, so you can get up on what actually is going on, so you're not saying things that are not true.
Because the narrative is changing. People just need to pay attention to
Yeah.
it, the fact that it is. All right, so the last topic is about the 2-year-old that was shot in Newark. So on January 28th, there was a 2-year-old baby that was shot. Thankfully, she survived.
She.
Yeah,
Right.
thankfully, she survived. No arrests have been made as of yet in
Right.
this crime. So what can the public do to make sure this case is solved?
Well, listen, I think there's people out there who know what's going on. There are people out there who know who did it. And, I've been saying on Facebook and on my own thing, keep that same energy. Like, so the police run down on somebody, they do something they don't have no business doing. I get 1,000 ats. People at me all day. Look at this video. Oh, Newark this, Newark that, Newark this, Newark that. And sometimes they right, sometimes they wrong. And I don't have no problem with them doing that. They should advocate, right, and engage the mayor, the council, everybody when they think something is wrong that should not happen, that it should be corrected. So I have no problem with them doing that when the police are out of control
Right.
or they're violating people's rights. But you have to do the same thing when 2-year-old children in our community get shot. We have to protect our families, our babies. And if we get to a point where we don't care about 2-year-olds being killed because we want to uphold this kind of culture out here that makes it okay for us to go out here and shoot arbitrarily, this kind of gangsterism that exists from this kind of national culture, to uphold this is problematic. These things are problematic. And in fact, it creates this kind of cyclical problem where people believe that we need to be policed heavier, policed harder, and which creates the problems that you keep at me about. So help us catch the cowards who would shoot into a car of a child, a woman, and their family and shoot a 2-year-old. And if you know something about it, you should call. And if you don't want to call the police, you can call the city hall, call the mayor's office. You can tell me. I certainly would tell on them. I don't have any problem with it, so at all.
So initially, it was reported that it was a young child that was 4.
Right.
And then later we heard that it was a 2-year-old girl.
Right.
How do we ensure that the police officers are reporting efficiently and accurately?
Well, when they get to the scene, it's chaotic, Police get to the scene. Usually the first report is not completely correct. And that's, just my 6 years being the mayor, I'll get a report as soon as it happened, 3 hours after it happened, the next day, right? So it keeps coming in. And usually, by the time we say something, we have everything correctly. But because this was, part of that was my fault. As soon as I got the first thing, I jumped out and said it. It's a 4-year-old boy, da-da-da-da. And even when I was on Facebook, I was getting information. So I said boy, and then I changed it. But, the police actually got to the scene and drove the baby and the mother to the hospital. They could have done all kinds of things. But the fact that they acted fast and drove that baby to the hospital, they saved that baby's life. And I got a chance to see that young girl in there. She's very frail, but extremely strong to go through this. They said she was up and alert and talking as she came into the hospital, bleeding with a bullet in her body. She had tubes in her throat when it was there. Just a beautiful young child who should not have to deal with this trauma. Her mother, her grandmother. This is a lovely family. This isn't like some family you see on Lifetime, some caricature of a wild group of people that are out there in the streets doing all kinds of crimes. This is a great family. And listen, I don't care. Even if they was that, nobody deserves the 2-year-old to be shot. But it's just sad, And the only silver lining in this is that this baby came out of it. That she came out of it. That she, is going to walk away from this.
Right. All right, Mayor, that's all we have time for this episode.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone out there, for watching. And good night.